Hello everyone, myself Sabri and I welcome you to our channel Solution Bridge Network and one-stop solution for all your Power Platform tutorials.
Happy to see you all in the PowerApps walkthrough part 2. We have already covered the basic user interface in the part 1 of this video. I strongly recommend everyone to watch the part 1 if you are starting or started your journey with PowerApps recently. I have updated the video link of the part 1 in this video's description for your easy access. In part 2, we are going to touch base on the following topics: basics, elements, and properties of PowerApps, formulas and function, saving and publishing the app. Let's get to my computer screen. I'm already on the blank canvas where we have left off in our previous part, and it's time for us to add our first element to the app. Click on the insert menu at the top and insert a text label which is under the popular category. Either you can click on this element or drag and drop this element to the blank canvas to get it added. Now you can observe that under the screen 1 we have an element called label 1. On clicking this label 1, you see a list of properties that getting opened on your right side. This is called properties pane. And each element what we are inserting into the canvas will have a different set of properties, and these properties can be customized via this section. The properties what you see here will also be available on the top left where you can select and update the value from here as well. Now let's make this label looks like a header for us in the app. Let me select it and push it to the corner, expand it to the complete width, and rename the text to employee management. Increase its font size to 30 and make it as center aligned. If you're interested to change the font weight, you can select it either semi bold, lighter, or bolder. I'm going to select it as semi bold for now. Scroll down and look for something named as color where you have privilege to change the text color as well as the background color. I would like to change the background color, set it to dark maroon, and change my text color to white. So this makes the header for our app. Now if you look at the properties on the top left, you see few of the properties are getting highlighted. This shows that those properties were changed from its default value. One of the best practice that I would suggest everyone to follow is the proper naming conventions after reading each and every element to the app. This will help us to save our time when we are modifying an existing application. So let's consider this screen to be our home screen and this label as our header label. So we have a home screen now. It's time for us to add one more screen where we have the privilege to write back to the source and view the information available in the source. You can add a new screen by clicking on plus new screen and select it as a blank screen. Rename it to add or view. Similarly, we need the header, and hence I'm copy pasting the header which is available in the home screen to the add or view screen and renaming it as add or view data. The next step, we need to add a button in the home screen which helps the user to navigate to the add or view screen when clicked. To achieve this, we need to call a function. A function is nothing but a predefined operation that performs a specific tasks within the app. This can also be used to perform various actions like calculations, data manipulation, validation, and much more within our app. Click on insert and select the button. We will call this button as add or view since this will help us to navigate to add or view screen. The function what we are adding to this button should be called if and only if the button is clicked, and hence we will be updating that function in the on select property of this button. You can observe that my button is already selected and hence the on select property is pre-picked in the properties drop down. It's time for us to update the function here. Let's type navigate, and this accepts one mandatory argument which is the name of the screen. So now we need to navigate to add or view screen, and then I'm selecting it as add or view followed by the transition. So let's select the transition as fade and then close the bracket. Let us see the button in action. You can click on this play button at the top right to run the app, and let's click the button and see if it is getting navigated to add or view. Great, our first function is working. Now we don't have any option to get back to the home screen. So it's time for us to add the same action which will help us to navigate from add or view to home. So let's get back to our edit mode. And now we are adding an icon in the place of a button. So let's go to insert and expand icon and look out for an icon called home. So let's go to H. We have home. Click on it. So this gets added here. Adjust the home icon in your header. Change the color to white so it gets displayed properly. Now we need to replicate what we have done in our add or view button. Select the icon and in the on select property, we will say navigate to home screen here with a fade transition. As I said earlier, the best practice is to give a proper name and hence let's name it as home icon. It's not mandatory that you should hit on this play button to check each and every functionality what you're adding. As an alternative, you can achieve that by clicking the Alt key and clicking on that button. So I have already holded my Alt key and I'm just clicking on this home to check if it is navigating to the home screen. Let's try. There it goes. So similarly, I'll hold the Alt key and I'm clicking on Add or View and it navigates back to Add or View. So the function what we have added is working properly. In our part 1 of this video, we have already connected a data source called employee information. Now it's time for us to add a form to write back to the source and a gallery to view the informations which is available in the source. We are planning to publish a new video where we will be explaining this form and gallery control in detailed manner. Now let's insert a form to write back to our source. You can achieve that by going to insert and selecting the edit form. Let's arrange it in the canvas properly. Let's rename the form to add form. As a primary thing, we need to have the source connected. Since the form is pre-selected here, the first property what we see here is data source. And this drop down will list down all the sources that our app is in connection with. So we have the employee information and we can select it to have it connected to our form. Here, the form and the sources are linked and hence we are seeing the column names getting auto-populated. Title and attachments are the default columns if you are connecting with SharePoint. And since it is not required in our case, we can delete it by selecting that and clicking on delete. So I've selected it. I'm clicking on delete to have these two columns removed from my form. As I said earlier, we are going to use this form to enter the new data to our app. And hence it is mandatory for us to set the default mode of this form to new. You can find an option called default mode, which will be edit as a default, hence change it to new. Similarly, scroll down and have a border added to your form. I already have a border line and this color selected. Just I'm increasing the width, setting it to 1. So my form now has a border. It's time to add one more button to the app and rename it as submit data. As the name of the text suggests, this button will help us to submit the data from this form to the existing SharePoint. So we need to update the function in the onSelect property and now we are going to use a new function called submit form. And this submit form takes the form name as the input. Since we already have only one form, this pre-displays the add form. You can select that and close the bracket. Once the data is submitted, the form will roll back to its default state, which is edit. And hence we will change the behavior by adding in one more function called new form. You can add multiple functions and formulas to one property by separating it with a semicolon. Let me add a semicolon and call a new function called new form, which accepts the form name as the argument and select the add form and close the bracket. One thing we need to keep in mind that the functions and the formulas what we key in will work from left to right. So here it first submits the data and then sets our default mode of the form to a new form. Let's run the app and add our first data. So I'm clicking on run and filling the information. I have filled in my information. Let's click on submit data and see what happens. The data what we have entered vanishes. Let's go to the source and see if we have this information available. There it comes. So the data what we have entered is available in the source. It is not obvious for everyone to come to the SharePoint and check if the data what we have entered in the application is available. So we need to add a control in the Power App which will display all the list of entries. And we need to add one more notification to the form which says whether the data is submitted or not. So let's get back to the Power App and make those changes. Click on the form and in the drop down of properties, select on success. This section of this form will get triggered if and only if the data is successfully submitted to the source. Let's remove this false and call a new function called notify. Notify has three arguments. The first argument is text. So I'm saying that text as data submitted successfully. Now, the second argument is a type of notification. So it is a success notification. And third one is a timeout. So the number of milliseconds to display the notification before it gets dismissed. I'm saying show it for 100 milliseconds and I'm closing the bracket. Now, whenever we enter a new data and if it gets submitted successfully to our source, we will get a notification. Before we test this logic, we will add a control to view the list of information available in our source as well. So let's get back to the insert and add a control called vertical gallery. Let me arrange the gallery so that it is not in overlap with the form. Let's add a border and connect it to our source employee information. Let's change the layout and select the layout which has title, subtitle and body. In the tree view, scroll down where you can see the gallery one, rename it to view data, and you can select the title and set it to employee name. Similarly, the subtitle to the designation and the body to the date of joining. Select all the three and have its font size increased for the legitimate display. Now let's run the app, enter the information and see how it works. I have filled in my information and I'm clicking on submit. Now you can observe you get a notification at the top when the data is submitted successfully and you can find the data what you have entered as well. The final topic in the session is to save and publish the app. Either you can use this icon or Control S to save the app, and once this app is saved, you can use this icon or Control Shift P to have the app published to the end users. You will get this pop-up where you can click on publish this version to have it published. Either you can click on edit details to edit the name of the app and description. So I'm clicking on publish this version. One thing to be kept in mind that the changes whatever you have saved will not be available for the end users until unless it is published. Let's conclude this video by taking a recap of what we have learned. We understood how to insert an element and change its properties, some basics functions, and finally saving and publishing the app.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe our channel, hit the like button, and press the bell icon for our new video alerts.